There are moments in life when your heart feels held captive by invisible strings, filled with hope, yet shadowed by fear. I've loved him for nearly 6 years. Years I thought were building toward a shared future, a wedding, a family, the kind of happily ever after I dreamed about. But then, that light at the end of the tunnel suddenly dimmed when he told my dad he'd propose before the end of the month. A promise that slowly dissolved into empty words and endless delays. Our anniversary was approaching, a day that should have marked a milestone, but instead was swallowed by silence, distant gifts, and apologies never spoken at the right time. Everything felt chaotic in my heart. Caught between burning hope and bitter disappointment, I kept asking myself, did he really want to walk into the future with me? This isn't just a story about a broken promise. It's the journey of a shattered heart, of dreams once so certain, now lingering as a quiet ache. And when silence grows, when explanations feel meaningless, what choice do you have but to let go? Join me as I take you deeper into this story. Not just the events, but the raw emotions, the hidden wounds, and the painful decision one woman faces at a turning point in her life. My story isn't just to share. It's to ask you, if it were you, would you wait, or would you move on? Almost 6 years. 6 years of my life, woven with laughter, silent tears, dreams whispered in the dark, and moments that felt like forever. When I first met him, I believed in forever. I was 25 then, full of hope and ready to build a life with someone who promised he'd stand beside me through it all. We moved in together after a couple of years, bought little things to fill our apartment, and talked endlessly about our future, marriage, kids, a home filled with love. But life, as it often does, threw curveballs. Last year was the hardest. He lost his job, and suddenly, the plans that once seemed so clear became blurred. We packed up our life in that apartment and moved back in with our parents. Separate homes but a shared dream to save and rebuild. I watched the light in him flicker. The same spark that once made my heart race dimmed under the weight of uncertainty. Yet, despite the struggles, I held on. For 6 years, I thought love would be enough. But then came that day. The day my dad, usually reserved, gently asked him, "When are you planning to propose to my daughter?" I remember hearing his answer as if it shattered something fragile inside me. "Before the end of next month." Confident, sure, a promise. And yet, as days slipped by, that promise twisted into silence and delay. In those weeks leading to our anniversary, the anxiety grew like an ache deep in my chest. Every smile felt forced, every conversation edged with tension. I stopped dropping hints because I wanted it to come from him, from his heart, not from my desperate need for reassurance. But the signs were there. Small cracks in a foundation I thought was strong. When he suddenly suggested a weekend getaway, my heart sank. If he had truly planned this, would it be so easy to say yes to a spontaneous trip without a word about the proposal? Friends began to notice my quietness. My sister whispered concern in late-night calls, asking if I was okay. My mom, before she passed, always reminded me, "You deserve someone who's sure." Losing her last year had already hollowed a space inside me. And now, the weight of waiting was unbearable. I felt trapped between hope and heartbreak. Was I holding on to a dream or a promise he never really meant to keep? The line between love and disappointment blurred. With every passing day, the man I thought I knew seemed to drift further away, leaving doubts to fill the silence. Was it fear that held him back? Was he afraid of losing me if he didn't do it perfectly? Or worse, did he not want this life with me at all? And just as I began to lose myself in these questions, the anniversary loomed. A day that once symbolized our journey, now standing as a cruel reminder of everything left unsaid, undone. Would he break the silence? Or would it forever echo the promise that never came true? This was just the beginning. The moment where love meets reality, and the heart must decide whether to hold on or let go. Stay with me as we dive deeper into the twists of hope, betrayal, and the bittersweet dance of love that followed. Because sometimes, the hardest part of love is facing the truth we don't want to see. The words came easy at first. "I promise I'll propose before the end of the month." Those words echoed in my mind, a fragile lifeline in the sea of uncertainty. But reality, cold and relentless, showed a different story. Day after day passed, yet no ring, no plan, no indication he was ready to take that leap. He brought flowers and a card on our 5-year anniversary, but even those gestures felt weighed down by hesitation. Celebrating 5 years without a proposal would be embarrassing, he said once, a line that stung more than any silence. His words planted a seed of doubt. Was I just a placeholder until the right moment? I wanted so badly to believe it was just fear, not a lack of love. Friends tried to cheer me up. My best friend, Anna, called me late one night after sensing my silence at a gathering. Maybe he needs more time, she said softly, trying to ease my pain. But inside I was unraveling. The repeated postponements weren't just timing issues. They felt like cracks forming in everything I thought we built. There was the Valentine's Day trip he planned. Tickets to theme parks, big smiles, laughter. Everyone else would call it romantic. But for me, it was a distraction. A way to gloss over the unspoken question. When would he actually commit? That question haunted every quiet moment. My dad's gentle confrontation haunted me too. He never pushed, but the weight of his question, "When will you propose to my daughter?" lingered like a shadow. And then the promise, before the end of August. My heart clenched with cautious hope, but hope felt fragile, slipping through my fingers like sand. Every time I asked, his answers were vague, hesitant. Maybe in 2 to 3 weeks. Those words felt like nails on a chalkboard, each repetition dulling my trust. Was I being unreasonable to expect a clear answer? Or was he showing me the truth he couldn't say aloud? The most painful moment came when I realized he wasn't just delaying a proposal. He was delaying me. The woman he once called his future was now an afterthought, a possibility to postpone indefinitely. That realization cut deeper than any argument or fight ever could. I found myself replaying moments in my head. The way he handed me a bracelet without looking me in the eye. The quiet sadness hidden behind his forced compliments. I could see the distance growing. A chasm widening with every unfulfilled promise. Even my own heart betrayed me sometimes. I wanted to believe he loved me enough to fight for us. But the silence screamed otherwise. It was a daily battle, between holding on to the love I knew and accepting the betrayal of broken promises. And through it all, one question remained, louder than ever. How long do you wait for someone who's slowly slipping away? The ache wasn't just in my heart. It settled in my bones, an invisible weight I carried everywhere. Every morning I woke to a gnawing anxiety that whispered, what if this is really the end? The waiting, the constant, agonizing waiting, became a shadow darkening even the brightest moments. I remember nights lying awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation, every glance, every silence. My mind would spiral into a storm of what-ifs and maybes, twisting hope into fear. The man I loved, was he preparing to say yes, or was he already saying goodbye? Losing my mom the previous year made everything feel even heavier. Her absence was like a silent echo in the spaces where love used to live. She had always been my safe harbor, the one who would remind me I deserved the very best. Now, without her voice to steady me, doubt crept in like a thief in the night, stealing my confidence. My sister, Maya, became my anchor. Late-night texts, coffee runs, long talks on tough days. She was there, trying to pull me back from the edge when I felt myself slipping into despair. You're stronger than this, she'd say, but even her words sometimes couldn't reach the quiet storm inside me. The most painful part wasn't just the waiting, it was feeling invisible. Like every promise was a thread unraveling between us. Behind closed doors, I was breaking apart, struggling with the fear that maybe this love wasn't meant to last. That betrayal wasn't loud or angry, but quiet, a slow retreat behind walls we built together, but he was now silently climbing over. Even friends began to ask if I was okay. One night, Anna held my hand tight and said, "You deserve clarity, not crumbs of hope." Those words hit me hard because deep down, I knew she was right. I was surviving on fragments, a text, a smile, a half-hearted plan, when I truly needed truth. The tension between love and loss twisted inside me. I wanted to fight for us, to believe that beyond the silence and delay was a man ready to commit. But every day the fear grew. What if his hesitance wasn't about fear or timing, but a quiet decision to let go? And yet, amidst the heartbreak, I began to see a flicker of something new. The painful cracks in our story were slowly shaping my path to strength. I wasn't just a woman waiting anymore. I was starting to become a woman who deserved better. But the hardest battle was yet to come. Facing the moment when hope must give way to truth, and love means letting go. The night was heavy with unsaid words as he arrived at my door, carrying a bouquet of flowers and the bracelet I had quietly hoped for, yet never expected. The way he handed me that gift, no eye contact, no warmth, felt like a rehearsal for the silence that was about to follow. His compliments felt rehearsed, filled with a sadness I couldn't ignore. It was as if he was apologizing without speaking. Dinner reservations at our favorite restaurant awaited, but with a closing time that felt rushed and careless. The evening carried a strange, fragile tension. I sat across from him, mirroring the quiet emptiness in his eyes, heart pounding with a mix of desperation and dread. When I asked plainly, "Are you proposing tonight?" the weight of his answer crashed over me like a wave. No. In that moment, the years, the promises, and the dreams we once shared shattered into fragments I could no longer hold. I told him to cancel the food order, my voice trembling but resolute. Walking away felt both like surrender and a fierce act of self-love. Through the car ride home, silence grew between us, heavy and suffocating. He fumbled when I asked when, if ever, he planned to propose. "Maybe in 2 to 3 weeks, he said. Words laced with uncertainty that felt like a betrayal. I had already given him until the end of that day. Enough. That night wasn't just the end of an anniversary. It was the end of us. And as he left, turning off his location like he was erasing the chapters we wrote together, I felt every ache of loss, every sting of broken trust. I called him a liar, not to wound, but to free myself from the lies I'd been living. My heart shattered in ways words can't capture. I was angry, betrayed, but beneath it all, there was a flicker of something darker, relief. Relief that the waiting was over, that I could finally begin to let go. My sister stood by me that night, her presence steady as I crumbled. "You deserve so much more than this," she whispered, holding my hand tight as I faced the abyss of heartbreak and the uncertain path ahead. The road wasn't clear, and the silence that followed was deafening. But in that silence, for the first time in years, I heard my own voice rising from the wreckage, telling me I was enough, that love shouldn't hurt this deeply, and that sometimes walking away is the bravest thing you can do. In the quiet aftermath of heartbreak, I learned one of the toughest truths. Love, no matter how fierce or deep, is not always enough to build a future. I used to believe that love could conquer everything, that if two people truly cared, the rest would fall into place. But reality painted a different picture, sharper and more unforgiving. Love is beautiful in its rawest form, but life demands more: trust, commitment, shared goals, and the courage to take difficult steps forward together. His hesitation wasn't just about timing. It was about readiness, about willingness to embrace the unknown with me. And when that foundation shakes, even the strongest love can crumble. Friends I confided in whispered their own stories, tales of waiting too long, of fighting battles that drained their souls. Anna, my best friend since college, reminded me gently, "You deserve someone who chooses you every day, not just when it's convenient." Her words reverberated through my mind like a lifeline, pulling me toward clarity. My sister Maya, who had watched me unravel and rebuild, sat with me during long talks that stretched into the early morning hours. "We all have our battles," she said, "but true love shouldn't feel like a war zone." Her wisdom rooted me in reality and propelled me to redefine what I wanted and what I deserved. I realized that love without action is just a story waiting to end. It takes more than words. It takes sacrifices seen and unseen, choices made without hesitation, and a shared vision that demands sacrifice from both sides. His love was there, or maybe it wasn't. But his actions, those hesitant, guarded actions, told a different story. Growing up fast through this pain was a bitter lesson in self-respect. I learned to listen not just to what people say, but to what they show. I learned that waiting indefinitely is not loyalty, it's loss. And that loving myself meant choosing not to settle. As I rebuilt my world, new doors began to open. Opportunities one had ignored while holding on to a promise that was never fully his to keep. I started to see love not as my only salvation, but as a part of a larger story, one where I am the author. After the storm of heartbreak and shattered promises, the The quiet space that followed was both daunting and necessary. It was in that silence, the absence of his voice, the stillness of our broken dreams, that I finally began to hear my own. Slowly, painfully, I started to reclaim pieces of myself I thought were lost forever. Therapy became my sanctuary. My old therapist, who I hadn't seen in almost a year, welcomed me back with open arms. Together, we navigated the tangled web of grief, anger, and hope. Every session was a step toward healing, learning that pain doesn't have to define me, and that forgiveness could start from within. My sister Maya stayed by my side, holding me through nights when tears wouldn't stop. Friends like Anna reminded me that I was not alone, that my story wasn't over. They became the chorus of strength I didn't know I needed. The journey wasn't linear. Some days felt like progress, others like falling back into old wounds. But each moment, each breath, was proof that I was moving forward, toward self-love, toward clarity, toward a future I could build without waiting for someone else's promise. I began to set new goals, not just about love or marriage, but about who I wanted to be. I started new hobbies, embraced old passions, and opened my heart to possibilities beyond the pain. I learned that sometimes, losing someone you thought was your forever is actually making space for something even better. This story isn't just mine anymore. It's a journey shared by anyone who's faced the gut-wrenching choice between holding on and letting go. And if you're listening now, feeling the weight of broken trust or uncertain futures, know this. Your healing starts with you. Your strength is waiting to be discovered. From the ashes of a 6-year love, I rose, not just as someone who survived, but as someone who learned to thrive. And the future, though unknown, now feels like a story I'm ready to write. Thank you for being with me through every chapter. Share your thoughts, your own stories, and let's lift each other up. Because sometimes, the most beautiful beginnings come after the hardest endings.